Hey guys, this is Hayes with CheatSheetPros.com. Today we're going to take a look at our NFL DFS breakdown for Week 10. If you've read the article, I'm going to format this video exactly like we did the article with the screenshots and kind of walk through it, but probably not going to be a whole lot of new information that's not in the article, but we will see. So if you've read the article, that's fantastic. If you can't read and you just love my beautiful voice, then by all means, hang on to this YouTube video and let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go over 4 stacks that we like this week. Then we're going to talk about some individual players. So the first stack we like is Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons. So they are a 9-point dog. And one of the things we like, they fit really well into this game. Over recent games, Matt Ryan has been returning a tremendous value. They're a dog. They're going to have to throw a lot. Some of the other things that jump out at me on the cheat sheet is they pass at a 63% clip, which is 8th highest in the NFL. I mean, they can't run. You know, how often have you seen a Mike Davis 100-yard game? Cordarrelle will get, 5 to 8 carries, and then Mike Davis gets about the same, and that's pretty much it. So if they score points, it's going to be through Matt Ryan. Another thing I like about this game is you can see right here, Dallas is really good against the run. Well, that doesn't matter. Atlanta can't run to save their life. And then they're not real good against the pass. They're giving up 270.5 passing yards per game, which is 25th in the NFL. So this is a good Lego piece for Matt Ryan and these Atlanta Falcons. Now, Matt Ryan is $6,000 on DK and $7,300 on FanDuel. And on DK, I look for a player that can give me about a 4x return. So we're looking at about 24 DK points is something that we want. Well, when we scroll down here to our fantasy point tracker, you can see since week 4, he's been at almost 5x, 4x, almost 4x, bad game, and then 5x. So he's been giving up a ton of X value. And then to pair with him, I really like Cordarrelle Patterson. Look at his floor. I mean, he has no game less than 14.1 DK points, so I love him for cash. And he's got a high of 34. And then other than that, about 24, which is pretty good. I think he was 66. Yeah, he's 66. So his price is getting a little high, but if someone does well, you can really count on Patterson. The other one is Pitts. So Pitts has been up and down. He had a monster game, nothing, and we'll say nothing there. 9.2 is not really doing anything for you. So Patterson and Pitts are the top 2, but the third one would have to be Russell Gage. Now, in here, it really just depends on who catches the touchdowns, but when I'm looking for another target, I come over here to the Targets tab, and then here, this is what the Target tab looks like. I filter everybody out except for Atlanta. We got it sorted over here by average per game, and then you can see Ridley's gone. He's probably not going to play anymore this year. Then Kyle Pitts, 10, 8, 6, 7. He's a top option. Patterson, 9, 5, 5, 6. These are the targets they have each week, so he's a top option. Gage has 6 and 8, so I would say he's the third option. And then these other guys in here are just kind of mixed somewhere between, 2 and 5 targets, and every now and then one of them will catch a touchdown. So Pitts is 58. Patterson's a little bit more at 66. Gage is 5,000. I probably wouldn't go anywhere lower than that. Olamide, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. He has 1, 1, and 3 targets. He did catch a touchdown last week. He's only 4,400 if you want to get really crazy and put him in there. But I do like Matt Ryan paired up this week because I think they will score at least 21, 22 points, and he's cheap enough that you can plug him in and one of his pass catchers and then get a good stack elsewhere. The other stack that I like, let's move on to number 2, is Carson Wentz and the Indianapolis Colts. So in this game, we've got Indianapolis playing Jacksonville. Now, a couple of things that jump out at me. So Jacksonville's in the perfect letdown spot. They had a huge win against the Bills last week, which was unbelievable. Let me go show you that game real quick. So where did we go? Buffalo. Okay, so Jacksonville held the Buffalo Bills to 6 points, 17 first downs, 72 rush yards, 301 total yards, and beat them 9-6. I mean, that's just unbelievable. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, they really didn't do anything, and I think that's what everybody's focused on is, oh, Jacksonville's good. No, they're not. They still suck ass. Just keep betting against them. This is a good letdown spot for them. Now, they only had 16 first downs, which is decent, but only 218 total yards is awful. So 16 first downs, 218 total yards for 9 points. That's not very good. And now they're going to go on the road to an Indianapolis team who, let's see what Indianapolis did last week. So Indianapolis put up 532 yards, 260 on the ground, 272 in the air, 28 first downs, and 45 points against a really bad Jets team. So, yes, Jacksonville had a good game, but I think the buck stops there. Jonathan Taylor is really good, and he's fine to use if you want in DFS, but I like stacking Wentz just due to his price. So he's sub 6. So he's $5,900 on DraftKings, $7,500 on FanDuel. So he's pretty much we're looking at 23.5 to 24 DK points for about that 4X value. And if you look down here, I mean, he's been phenomenal. So he's been over 4X, 3X, close 3.5X, about 3.5X, and 4X. So I'm looking for quarterbacks who are going to give me a big return. And they throw the ball quite a bit. For having Jonathan Taylor, there's been games where I've bet his rushing yard prop, and they just keep throwing the ball, and I'm like, quit throwing the ball. Now, when you use Carson Wentz, $5,900 is cheap on DK, and then you stack him, come down here and take a look. Now, this is just clear as day. It's Michael Pittman, and everybody knows that. 20.9, 23.5, 30, 17. He is the clear-cut pass catcher. Now, if you want to come over here to the targets tab, let's go ahead and take a look at Indy. And TY might get back in there this week. But, yeah, I mean, it's clearly Pittman. And even the games where he only has a few targets, he usually catches a touchdown. Pascal would be one to take a look at. He's got 6, 8, and 7 targets the last 3 weeks. And he's only $4,500. That's dirt cheap. I actually did not see that. Hilton, when he was in, 4 and 5 targets, not a ton. Hines, he's got his normal 2 to 5 targets. Pascal might not be a bad one if you want 2 pass catchers in there. And let me see if there's anything else that I had on this stack. And then we will go ahead and move on and take a look at the next one. Also, one of the benefits of this, we have them winning this game 25 to 22. And then down here on our skew line, we have them winning by 30 to about 17. So if they can put up about 30 points, that's pretty decent. And then Jacksonville is pretty good against the run. They're only giving up 3.8 yards per carry, which is third lowest in the NFL. And then the 12th least amount of rush yards at 103.4. So I think Taylor will do decent, but not enough to win a GPP. I mean, he's 8,100. So for 4X, you need 32 DK points, and it's going up against a semi-decent run defense. And if you look across here, how many times has he hit 32? Okay, well, half the time, so I guess I was wrong. So 34.9, 31, 37. So he could get there. So he's giving you 3X and then some 4X upside, but it is a tougher defense. So I prefer the pass catching option with Winston and Pittman. And then going on to stack number 3, we've got LAC. So we scroll down here, we take a look at the Chargers. So we've got them scoring about 27 points here, 25 points down here. So I think this will be a good back and forth game. Both of these teams are almost equivalent on paper. They're 9th and 10th in offensive yards allowed. Defensively, Minnesota's allowing a lot more. But the Chargers can't stop the run. So if Dalvin Cook goes off, they could kill the clock in this game and run it down. But the reason I like Justin Herbert here is he's 7,300. He's a little bit more, but he's got tremendous upside. So 7,300 on DraftKings, 8,000 on FanDuel. Sorry, you FanDuel players. I'm trying to get some FanDuel prices in there for you as well. And then you come down here and look. So 7,300, so we need 28, about 29.2, we'll say 29 points to get his 4X. Well, here he's at 35, so he's almost 5X. And then he just had a 2X game, and then 45. He had a massive game there, and then 3X, and then just over, right around 4X. So he's got big upside there, and they really don't run the ball that much. What's their passing rate? So they pass at a 64% clip, which is 6th highest in the NFL. They really don't run a lot. It's typically a lot of throwing, a lot of screen passes to Eckler, which really benefits Justin Herbert. So if you're going with Herbert and then you're going to look down here at one of the pass catchers, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams are probably going to be your top two, although Mike Williams, you can see, he's kind of fizzled out the last 3 weeks after having a couple massive games. But the most consistent one is Keenan Allen across the board. I mean, he's right in that 10 to 20 points. And he's been doing really well recently, 19.7 and 25.4 the last week. So it'd be Herbert and Allen would be my favorite two to put together. Tight ends are cheap enough. If you wanted to, you could. One tight end you can see usually does well. In this game, Cook got 19. In this one, Parham got 12.9. Then Cook got 12.5, and then neither. But usually one of them's getting double-digit points. So if you want to mix and match in a few GPPs and go that route, you can. Let me see what else we got. Moving on to stack number 4 is going to be... Where did they go? Tom Brady. So Tom Brady is one of the easiest ones to stack. They throw right here at the number 1 highest rate in the NFL. 67% of their plays are pass plays. So that bodes well for Tom Brady. And then take into the account that they're facing Washington, who's giving up the most passing yards per game of 286.8. And that's just... I mean, astronomical. So that's great for Tom Brady. I think his raw projection, come over here to the projections tab, Tom Brady. Yeah, he's projected for 340 passing yards. So I think his prop was like 303 or 305. So if you're doing props, he's a good one to take a look at. Now his pass catchers are questionable this week. I know Gronk is out. I know AB is out. Godwin is a game-time decision. Godwin would typically be my go-to, but it might be down to Mike Evans and Tyler Johnson this week if you're looking for something. And Tyler Johnson, he's got to be pretty inexpensive. Yeah, $3,300 on DK, $5,100 on FanDuel. So if Godwin's a no-go, I would probably do Evans and Johnson, roll that route. It looks like O.J. Howard could get in there. He had a decent game of 17 points back in week 6, but I do like Tom Brady because regardless, he's going to throw the ball, and he's going to sling it all over the place, and he's going to do well, and he's really not that expensive. He's $7,600, so he's someone that I do like. There's so much changing in week 10 with just as I was getting ready to hit record, they announced Nick Chubb out, so Dearness Johnson becomes the big play. Kamara is questionable. Everybody's waiting to see his practice reports for today to see if he played. So there's a lot of stuff going on. So looking at some one-off filler plays, I'm just going to pull this up and we're going to kind of run through them. So Mark Ingram is one. He's only $4,500 on DK. And so quietly, the Saints brought in a bunch of vet running backs and worked him out. So that was kind of a red flag. So I ran around and picked Mark Ingram up earlier this week in all my season-long fantasy leagues. And now they're saying he's questionable. He missed practice. There's some type of a knee injury or knee sprain, I think is the last thing that I read. So Mark Ingram could get a lot of work. He will be chalky, but that's fine. $4,500, I can eat that chalk. Jonathan Taylor, I don't mind him. He's the 3rd highest priced running back, but he's consistently giving you the 3 to 4X. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time telling you about the studs. Dalvin Cook has the prime matchup this week, and he's $100 cheaper than Taylor. So right here you can see the LA Chargers are giving up the most rushing yards per game at 161.6 and an absurd 5 yards per carry. Both ranked 32nd in the NFL. So he has the premier matchup. Now he does have an $8K price tag. The problem is at $8K, and we'll go look at him real quick. So at $8,000, you need 32 DK points. And he doesn't have 32 DK points all year. He's got 18, 8, 25, 20, 21. So cash, he's fine. GPP, I would probably stay away from him because people are going to see how bad the Chargers rush defense are. And they're going to be like, oh my God, Dalvin Cook, lock him into all your lineups. He's going to be a stud. But at 8K, he hadn't had a 4X game all year. So for him to go to 5X is almost damn near impossible. But cash, don't mind him. Dearness Johnson, he's someone that I put. Nick Chubb was questionable. He's only $4,700 on DK. Cleveland also runs the ball at the 3rd highest rate. They're the number 1 rushing offense, and they put up over 160 yards per game. The last time he started, he ran 22 times for 146 yards and 27.8 DK points. So, and now it's been ruled out that Chubb's gone, Johnson's starting, so Johnson's pretty much a lock and load. So this could be a week where you do Mark Ingram, Johnson, and then you just pay up for stud wide receivers and have a lot of fun. Cordarrelle Patterson, I don't mind it. With no Calvin Ridley, his floor is pretty much locked in. He's not going to kill you. He's great for cash games. And last week, I didn't realize this, but he caught 6 balls for 126 yards, which was really good. Now his price tag is $6,600 on DK, so it's starting to climb up in that range where it's really hard to get 4 and 5X. James Conner, he's going to be another big value this week. He's only $6,300 on DK. I don't mind it. Last week he got 21 carries, ran for 96 yards, 2 touchdowns, plus he caught 5 balls for 77 more yards. That's just absurd. He ended up with 40.3 DK points, so huge turnout. So he's going to be chalky this week. But again, with the sheer volume and Edmonds out, I don't mind that at all. Fournette, if you want to pivot off Connor in that same price range, I don't mind going down to him. He's pretty much 3X consistently, and he's got 5X upside, so he's good enough there for GPPs. If he breaks into the end zone a couple of times, he'd be pretty good. He just had 30.7 DK points in week 6, and his price tag's down from 64 to 6,100 after playing a tough Saints defense last week. And he's 5th in targets per game for the Bucs, and 2 of the guys ahead of him are out. So it's going to make him a top 3 pass catcher in that offense. And if Godwin doesn't go, it's going to move him up likely into a top 2 pass catcher. So he's someone I think will be much lower owned than someone like James Conner. So someone you can look at. If you get down here into the cheap punt category, Melvin Gordon, I don't mind. Last week I was shocked when I was looking at the stats. He had 21 carries for 80 yards and a touchdown. Ended up with 17.5 DK points. Prior week, he had 20.2 DK points. He's only 5,300 this week. So that's 3X, 4X. That's giving you a good return at someone that should be lower owned. Jordan Howard came out of nowhere and got 17 carries last week to lead the backfield, and that was only 13 DK points. And there was no involvement in the passing game, so I prefer him on FanDuel as opposed to a site like DK that's PPR scoring. But he's getting a lot of the goal line carries, so we can't look away from Jordan Howard, as ugly as it is. Devin Singletary is someone. Zach Moss was questionable. He was in the concussion protocol. I think Zach Moss is going to play now. They were talking about that on the radio today when I jumped out of the car to go have lunch with my wife, so I didn't hear it. So I'd probably go ahead and scratch him for now unless Zach Moss is a no-go. And the other one is going to be Brandon Bolden. So Damian Harris and Stevenson were both sidelined. Now, I heard Stevenson's they think he's going to clear concussion protocol, so he could get back on the field this week. I still would not play him. That's very risky. But Bolden's only 4,400, so he could get some more work. If Harris and Stevenson are both out, I really do like playing Bolden. He's cheap. He's using the passing game. He can run the ball. In week 7, he had 6 balls on 7 targets for 79 yards, so he's an effective receiver out of the backfield. And then on his 8 carries last week, he averaged 6.8 yards per carry, and then a couple weeks ago, he averaged 6.5 yards per carry, and that was only 4 carries, but he's consistently doing well in that offense, so he's someone to also consider. And again, this thing is changing nonstop, so just keep an eye on that, and make sure to utilize all the tools that are out there for you. I know I use these point-wise sheets quite a bit because I can see what the stats are for last week. When I do my college football sports betting, I take a look at this, I pull it up, I look and see, what teams did. Like, even though, like in one of my articles I wrote, even though the Rams lost last week 28-16 to Tennessee, they only gave up 194 total yards, 69 on the ground, and 16 first downs. So that Rams defense still played really well. They just got a little unlucky. So anyway, guys, good luck. And, yep, we'll see you next week.